Spring actually gets a little bit, I won't say busier, it just gets busy in a different way. Everyone's trying to figure out what we're calling the new normal. Uh, it's been interesting because normally when we have practices, we should be in spring practices right now. And when we have those practices, we're used to connecting with the team during that time, whether it's down in the weight room or up in the gym. And we used to doing all of our check-ins there. And now that it's kind of shifted to this format, a lot of phone calls, a lot of group phone calls, team phone calls, or Zooms, meetings with Josh or Sarah, my admin, our coaching staff. So it just becomes a little bit, not to say tricky, it just becomes different in terms of figuring all that out, all while trying to work at home with 3 kids here. So it's, I work odd hours. I'm used to working odd hours anyways, just because I like to spend the time with them. So that hasn't changed too much. But I think just trying to find what that balance of schedule is and what that looks like and try to still try to be really effective during this time. I think that becomes the big challenge. And again, just having a greater appreciation for what's going on right now and what people all over the world have to do, in the situation. And we're still very appreciative that we have a great athletic department that cares for us, and we have players that understand this is not just about us. It's about a bigger picture event going on right now that's very serious, and we're glad to help any way possible.
What's maybe the biggest thing that you guys lose just not getting that court time now during what would have been the spring season?
Yeah, this is our big time to develop. You can, of course, develop during the season, during the fall season, but it gets really difficult to break things down during the season because it's always go, go, go. We don't get a summer training camp, so this is our training camp that we really get to work and break down technique with our players. And in our case, we lost, I think, 3 or 4 starters last year, and we need to figure out who plays in what position. And normally we'd be playing in spring events over the next couple of weekends. We would be playing in 4 spring events, and so we get a good glimpse of how the players deal with that pressure or to do it as a team. And again, just to have that time with them to work on some technical aspects. And volleyball's tough to do at your house. It's really tough to get a live serve at you or to get a ball that's hit 60 miles an hour, which we normally do, for them to be able to do that. So we're still working. They have a plan to try to get better, and I trust that we're doing it. We check in that they're working through stuff, and they tell us what limitations they have at home. I saw you and Coach Lou last week, with water jugs and everything too. Very similar for what type of stuff that we're doing. The sport's a little different from just the strength aspect, but they all have a ball at home, and they've just been working on their ball control and anything else that they can do right now.
Yeah, so what are your recommendations volleyball-wise just to kind of keep up some of the skills and techniques?
Yeah, so we pretty much just put together a list of every skill set that we have to know as per position. And we just said, well, here's an idea of what we can work on. Here's an idea of how we can do it. We've been put together films of either us doing it in the past or other teams, world-class athletes doing the same thing. And just keep sending examples of how people across the world are still working on volleyball during this time. And as things pop up, we're just saying, hey, check this out, and maybe this is a good drill to try at home. And, we'll kind of see if it translates at the end of the day. But they're all working. They're all getting their touches in. I think the biggest thing right now is they get, for the players that jump, they need to get their jumps in as well, because I think that's what makes our sport unique. Our game is, if you're a middle blocker, as an example, you're jumping probably 120 times a match in a max jump capacity. So they need to make sure they keep that up. And by all accounts, they're doing that. And, we're just kind of one day at a time and just making sure they keep giving them ideas of how to work on what they can work on at home.
Now, how does this affect Elly Holzman? Because she was injured during the fall, and maybe this was, the time where she could come and connect with some of the players since she hadn't really seen that playing time in the fall. What does this mean for her? Are you concerned at all about that?
Yeah, not just Elly, but we have a lot of players that are fresh faces on the team, and they've been all of them have been around at least for a season now. So they're with Maddie Whittington coming in, obviously, but they've all been around each other for a bit. So from the team culture standpoint, we're still good in that regard. From the playing standpoint, it does get tougher to have that connection on the court and to be able to again kind of figure out some pieces and how it may work for the following season. So whether it's Elly or it's Maddie or it's Riley or anyone who's just trying to earn a spot, I think it gets difficult to prove yourself, and the proving's going to be now while we're away, and players like Elly still need time to get better, and so yeah, everyone's kind of working on their own thing one day at a time, and we wish we had that court time, but we don't, and we're just trying to work as best as possible now.
What's maybe some advice that you give to the players just to stay positive during this time? And like you mentioned, it might be hard for some players to prove themselves who are looking to compete for a starting role.
Yeah, I think a lot of our work right now has been through just again kind of the team culture stuff and the mindset of it. When we play against our Big Ten opponents, everyone's good and everyone is going to be in the same boat in terms of not being able to get their work in. So I think a lot of it for us is just working on our mindsets and just making sure we stay sharp. We show them lots of film. We have been showing them lots of film, either as a team or within our positions. Or even individually, and just making sure they just kind of stay on top of it. Again, film's a big thing right now. We're able to see. We have a library full of world class matches on film that they're able to watch and see how it's done at the top level, and or what we've done last year, and we're already kind of scouting opponents for next year, and it's made it again just kind of interesting and how this is all kind of shaped out, and the proof will be come hopefully by next season. So,
how does this impact recruiting for you? Because coming up, it's the big club season, and for maybe some of your incoming recruits as well who don't get to have that club season. How is that kind of coming into the mix with everything?
Yeah, I think that's probably the more interesting thing of all of it, because right now is our whole contact period as well, and so usually from President's Day in February all the way through mid-June is our big evaluation periods, and luckily we were able to get out for a few tournaments at the beginning of the year, and we were able to identify a lot of athletes. But yeah, we're not allowed to have contact with the age that we need to have contact with. Usually our recruiting happens a bit further out than most sports, and so we're looking at 8th grade freshmen. We're not allowed to talk to them until they start to become juniors. So yeah, and they usually summer camps as well. That's another thing that comes up. Can you get these kids to come to your summer camps? And we'll get that word in a couple of weeks, whether that's going to happen or not. But yeah, I think in terms of recruiting, we've identified a lot of players that would be great for the program. And then how do you do it without communicating with them? Well, we just keep working from maybe the social media aspect and making sure we keep presenting our program, how it is every day here, and or certain aspects of the program. I think just yesterday we posted something about Coach M, our strength coach, and just try to give them insight on what the program's about, and we try to keep in contact with their club coaches and our high school coaches, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you guys are bringing Eli onto the coaching staff this season. How are you excited to have him on board, and what does he bring to the team?
Yeah, Eli is great. I think any coaching staff changeover just brings some new energy, and not that any coach that leaves didn't bring any energy before that, but I think it just brings different perspectives. And as I go through this, I'm still considering myself a younger head coach who's still constantly wants to learn, and so I'm learning about myself through all this. And based on what I felt we needed for the program at this time, I think he's doing a fantastic job. And even from this, right before I was talking to you here, I was talking with him about some film stuff that we're doing, and he's really good with some technical aspects and some statistical aspects that we've been going over for the last handful of weeks here, and that's been great working relationship. The team's really taken to him as well, and he's done a great job, and happy to have him on staff.